Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be talking about Metroid Dread. Right off the bat, this is going to be a complete discussion, so this is going to have spoilers in it. You've been warned. I will likely put a thing at the beginning of the video just to say, hey, this is a spoilers discussion. I'm going over everything, and yeah, so if you're sticking around to hear my thoughts on this game, then great, and if you're going to wait until you finish it yourself, then cool, come back and see what I thought of it afterwards. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about Metroid Dread. Off the bat, I'm going to say this is a bold statement, but this is absolutely my favourite Metroid game I've ever played. And I'm going to go through why that is, because, you know, you could be thinking, oh, you know, maybe just riding high off of a quality game, and the reviews, the scores and stuff, if you have seen them, are very high. This game is fucking incredible. This is such a well put together Metroid game. All these indie games that have come out over the years, like Hollow Knight, and, you know, there's that sort of Dead Cell side of it, all the games that take this Metroidvania concept are great. You know, you can't deny that they're great. However, when you get to play, something about playing a Metroid game that no other like game in that genre comes anywhere close. And it's not to say those games are bad, because they're not. They're fantastic games in their own rights. But playing this game made me remember why this and the original or the later Castlevania games formed a genre. This really, really is one of the best examples of a Metroidvania. It's so well done and modernized. So why is that? Why is this game so good? Let's start with the controls. You got to think, this is the first time we've had a 2D Metroid with controls like we do. With the Switch, with the Pro Controller for example, you have L, ZL, R and ZR. That means that something like Super Metroid back in the day, you have to use the select button to switch through your weapons. Not here. This game, you use every button. There are so many controls in this game, right? Now, I still messed it up from time to time, but the fact that on L you have aim, ZR, you end up using that as a morph ball and slide. R and ZR become missile and grapple beam. And because you don't have you have buttons for each control, it just feels right. When you nail the right combinations of controls, it feels amazing. Samus in this game feels so like incredible to control. She moves at a nice pace. All of her animations flow beautifully from one to another. She literally is a fast version of herself. The wall jumping is so much easier than it's ever been, and everything that Mercury Steam and Nintendo have done here, they've made Samus feel incredible to move around on screen. Literally, like, she's never felt better than she does on screen. This isn't a methodical game. This isn't like the Prime series, which are a bit slower because of the perspective. Samus moves in this game, and there's a reason for that, because you spend a lot of time being chased throughout the game. And the biggest and one of the most important things is nailing controls, and they did a phenomenal job here. Basically, you shoot with Y, you use B to jump, so I like to hold down Y and tap. You then have A becomes flash shift and X is counter, and then the other buttons are on the triggers. So once you understand it, once you feel for it, once you've got all the abilities, and as the game goes on, you feel like a badass, and that's reflected on screen with Samus's actions as well. The controls really did need to be nailed in this game, and they've done a phenomenal job. And the fact that I feel like I can bounce around areas, get around quickly, grapple to places, all sorts of stuff seamlessly, makes such a huge impact on what I'm seeing visually and what it feels like to play this game in my hands. Going on about animations, let's talk about the art style and the graphics, right? Let's be real, it's a Switch game. It doesn't necessarily it's not going to be the super powerhouse that some people may want it to be, but this game is beautiful, especially some of the later environments that you get to. Oh boy, do they look amazing. The art style is very Metroid. I don't really know how to explain else. If you've seen what Metroid games look like in the past, you're going to see that with here. And for a 2.5D style that they're going for, it works so well. The game's a really good looker on Switch. The actual graphics themselves are just, they're nice. And if you put into animations into that, Samus herself animates so well. Like, when you're... one thing I found out that was really, really cool, so you have the slide, and we'll get to the abilities later, but you have the slide, and you have the melee counter. If you slide, and then melee counter, as she comes out of that animation, she slides into a cartwheel to counter stuff, and everything fits so well. She just moves in a way that you're just like, yes. Like, seamlessly sliding into Morph Ball, or Morph Balling back into running. The speed booster itself as well, the way that animates, the way that you can shine spark and things like that. Like, oh man, you can tell where the love and the attention and the care went. Like, she moves incredible, and not just her. The Emmy that you encounter in the game have such good animations, which makes them even more creepy than they already are. The way that they're, like, when they're searching, the way they fit through gaps, the way they can swing on the ceiling and stuff. Like, I think the two biggest things that they must have focused on here, apart from obviously gameplay, is animations on what's going on around Samus and how she reacts to the environment, the Emmy, and obviously the other creatures in it. Like, I can't even explain to you like how good this game animates. It's phenomenal. On top of that, you've got really good audio design. You have amazing sounds for the guns, for the enemies, the bosses. Like, Kraid sounds incredible. There's other enemies that you just see in the world. The sound design is phenomenal in this game. It's very eerie, especially when you're in an Emmy zone and you can hear the Emmy running around going... It's like, everything just comes together. I can imagine this is a game that is fantastic to play with headphones on, simply because the sound design is like... nothing sounds out of place. It is top notch. Like, it's just so dripping with that kind of atmosphere that you want. This game has got many horror vibes to it, which is why it's such a surprising thing how far they went with it. But every area you enter, every place you go to, and you get to hear the new sound designs, the enemy noises, the Emmy and stuff like that, it really just brings it all together. We can do it. Like, the one thing that I'm not 100% on is the music in this game. It's not to say it's bad, because it isn't. It's just very atmospheric. The boss fight musics, usually Kraid's one and some of the other boss fights later on, have really good music. It's just there are no, because when this game came out, there's no track in the game that feels like a Fendrana Drifts or a Lower Brinstar or just Lower Norfair or Brinstar and stuff like that. There's none of those like classics in the game. I mean, there are snippets of those classics that pop up in the game, and you do get to hear that, and they're fantastic when they pop in. But the actual music, it's much more atmospheric than it is memorable, in the sense of it's not a green Brinstar or a red Brinstar, you know, like that. It's not those classics you think of. However, I do think some of the later areas do have some good music. Barinia, I think, has got a nice track, and I think it's the forest area, I can't remember what it's called, also has some nice music. And it works, but it's not meant to be catchy like it was back in the day. When you have something on like Game Boy, or you have something on like the SNES, you kind of need the music to be fairly repetitive and memorable. And this, you don't need to do that. So if there's one tiny gripe I have with this game, it would be I wish the music was just a bit more catchy. But that's like not even a mark against the game or how good this game is. Boss fights, let's talk about that. The boss fights in this game are hard. They are hard. Like, this game itself is hard. Like, you can get absolutely destroyed by a common enemy. It's crazy how it's like that. But what makes the boss fights so good, and probably some of the best boss fights in Metroid, honestly, is the fact that they are hard, but when you understand the patterns, you feel like a badass doing them. Let's talk about Kraid. Kraid obviously got shown off in the trailers. Massive spoiler. Shocked to see him even be shown off. But the thing with Kraid is, when you fight him, he has two phases. First phase is like what you normally see, is like you just shoot him in the mouth, and then he fires out like fireballs and stuff, and he fires out claws. You just dodge it. Not too bad. The second phase is where the fight gets really interesting, because the fight itself has you down the bottom. He's firing the things from his stomach. He's got different moves. There's a magnetic rail that you need to get on to then be able to shoot him in his mouth. Now, what's cool about every single boss? Every boss has one move that you can counter if you time it correctly. If you do time it correctly, you can unload a huge amount of damage onto that boss. And that's really cool. The fact that you can literally just be like, right, okay, if I time this right. Every move is readable. Obviously, some of them are hard to avoid, but like I love the fact that the first time I played it, like I died to Kraid like 4 or 5 times, and then the second time I'm going through the game, I actually beat him first time because I understood. I managed to counter. I got much better at the game, and I love that because I would not sit here and say Kraid's easy. He isn't. Like, you've got to figure him out. He also has a secret way of defeating him as well, which is really cool. But other bosses, you have. There's like an underwater boss technical thing that only actually has one phase, which is cool because that boss is kind of, it's just a bit finicky. It's not bad anyway, it's just a bit finicky. You kind of have to like be very good at maneuvering underwater at the time. You have that, but you'd fight it before you get the gravity suit. But then you've got different types of Chozo, robot Chozo. You've got there's like the first boss you fight. You kind of fight like a similar one later on that blocks up some like fans and stuff. That one is really cool, but really hard. That one took me some attempts. The final boss in this game is absolutely phenomenal. You have to fight this. You see him in the trailers, the Chozo Ravenbeak, and that boss is relentless. And the cool thing about that boss is they show you in the very, very first cutscene, Samus counters him, and I didn't realize that was how you fight him. Like, that's actually one of the ways you deal with him as a character. You counter his move, the one that he tries to do on you. That's how you beat him. But that boss is so hard. It took me 15, 20 attempts to do him. He has 3 different phases, and they are brutal. And that's something I really appreciated. There are a lot of boss fights in this game. Like, a lot more than I thought. I would say probably 6 or 7. Like, there are some minor boss fights as well. Some repeatable ones. But yeah, honestly, like, holy shit, did they do such a good job with the bosses. Like, there's not a single one that I disliked. Like, there are some that I preferred, but they were all just so well handled. They use Samus's abilities so well. Like, it's incredible how they've done. Like, they're just very smart. One thing I do want to bring up that I think is one of the best parts about this game is the map that it gives you. The map in this game is probably the best map I've ever used in a Metroidvania, and the reason for this is because it does something very, 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 very good. When you find things on the map, when you find it, it'll put question marks next to it until you have the right ability. It will then, when you have that ability, it will tell you this is a grapple beam door. This is a speed booster block. When you break those things, so with the speed booster blocks, when you break them, it then shows up on the map as broken speed booster blocks, which means, one, you don't have to constantly break the same blocks over and over to travel around. 2, it tells you where you've been. I cannot understand how incredible this changes, because it means that when you are backtracking or when you are a little bit lost and you've just gained an item like the speed booster, you can look at the map and look at things that are now highlighted as speed booster blocks. So you can go, oh right, I know where I'm going, or I know I can go here because there are speed booster blocks. Once you've been to that area, it will say these blocks are being destroyed. It's the same with the missile tanks, the same with the upgrades. Now, they all kind of get faded out on the map, and it can be a little bit tough to see. But there's a highlight button, so if you highlight all the missile tanks that are available on the map, if they're greyed out, they've got a grey box around them, nothing. If they're like yellowed, or bright coloured, that means they're still there. And like, the map is just, I don't ever want to play a game that doesn't have these minor things with this map. Graying out those things and saying it, even in writing, because obviously colorblind people, even in writing it just says missile tank acquired, or it'll just say missile tank if you haven't got it. Like, they thought of everything with this, and it's such a minor change, but it is one of the things that really helped with me playing the game. Like, I only got stuck a couple of times, but playing through it again and looking at it and realizing, you know what, this map is actually incredible. Like, it's just these minor things they've done to it that help me as a player know where I've already been. It's not just saying it's a speed booster block or a power bomb block. It tells you that a lot of these things will stay destroyed when you do it. Bomb blocks come back and normal, like, blaster blocks come back. But yeah, if it's something that requires an item, like the speed booster and screw attack and stuff like that. Screw attack ones I think come back as well, but they no longer hide. They just show up as screw attack blocks on the screen. But things like speed booster I think generally just go. Same with power bomb blocks, they just go once you've done it. And it's like, that is such a cool but tiny change that makes someone like me who wants to backtrack and find all the items, makes my life easier, because I know I don't have to go to those areas again. I'm not like looking at the map going, oh, I think I need to go there. They do something else with the map where basically it will flash a square area to say when there's a hidden item there. Things like that, it's just such minor things that make this game so good, and that is one of the things that really helped me get around the map. I was so like happy with that. Let's talk about the abilities, because there are a lot in this game. So once you start the game, you have missiles and you have your beam and a slide. The slide itself is one of the best additions. Getting used to using the slide as much as you can, oh my god, it will save your bacon so much. If you get good with that and the forward melee attack or the melee counter, that is also really, really useful. It's not as heavily relied on, but it will give you bonuses. Like if you learn how to melee well, you'll gain health and ammo quite quickly. So it's definitely awesome for it. You also have the aiming back from Samus Returns, which is really, really nice. But like, you don't even get Morph Ball for like the first hour and a half of the game, which is really interesting because that's not something that happens. Obviously that's what the slide's for. But you gain Morph Ball, the bombs, super missiles, ice missiles. You have the beams are different. You get charge beam, then you get wide beam, then you get diffusion beam, which I think is new, which is like, it's like a high impact shot, so that when you shoot something, it fires through the ground or like hit things that aren't just in front. And then you eventually get plasma beam, which normally plasma beam's the last beam that you get, but in this game you get wave beam right at the end, and wave beam's ridiculous. Like, you keep plasma basically, but wave, what it does is just you can shoot through anything. No matter where you are, you can shoot through anything. You don't even need diffusion beam at that point. Wave beam's crazy. You've got the double jump ability, which you don't have for very long before it becomes space jump, which is interesting. It's odd that maybe it's just because I hit the critical path and I only had it for like, felt like what, 20 minutes to half an hour before I got space jump. But you do eventually get space jump, and screw attack's broken as always. Like, screw attack's amazing. You're just like dead. On top of that, you've got the grapple beam, you've got flash shift, the speed booster, you've got the scan ability, you've got the invisibility as well. Like, yeah, so many abilities in this game. Like, on the controls itself, you know, left stick, right stick, click in, all the back buttons, all the controls. Everything is used because you have so many abilities, and that is fantastic. I love it. Personal favorite is probably like, I really like speed booster. That's one of my favorite abilities, as well as screw attack and space jump. Space jump really opens up the game. I think space jump's one of those things. I know why it's a late game upgrade, because man, does it the freedom you get with space jump is so good. I love it. Yeah, and then a couple other things I want to talk about before we wrap this up. Let's talk about the backtracking. Backtracking is handled amazingly in this game. You don't actually need to backtrack that much, because the game puts in teleporters, it puts in rail stations that link all the areas together. The coolest thing is when you complete the game, the teleporters let you teleport to any one of them. Not just a matching colour, any of them. So when you do want to backtrack late game, if you finish it, you can just teleport around. And it's amazing. They really thought about what they wanted to do. They want people to backtrack, but they're also trying to, if you stay on the main path, you can get a lot of the items because you will go through areas time and time again. The game makes you do that. And it's like, just subtle changes like that is what makes this game so incredibly fun to play. Like, I don't have to get an item and backtrack every time. I can get the item, move forward still, and I'll have a chance to pass through that, through a teleporter, through a transporter, whatever it is. And that's such clever design. And that's the thing about the modernization of this game. Things like that, the map, those things make a huge difference. And to me personally, I was like, this is why I love this game so much. The last thing I want to touch on is the lore. This pushes the Metroid lore forward, and there was a couple of holy shit moments for me. Back before the game came out, I said, I think this will be like a laboratory world kind of thing. going on this planet, because I was just a guess. On top of that, I was like, I have a feeling the X-Parasite is definitely going to be, like, involved or have taken over something. Turns out, I was right about the X-Parasite. I was right about the kind of laboratory thing. It's more like a research area of the game, not the entire game, but like a research area of the game. And oh my god, right? So the first major thing that happens is that you have Samus meets this Chozo. They're talking. He's telling her about everything that's happened up until this point, why Ravenbeak is the way he is. And in the cutscene, Samus actually talks back to him in the language of the Chozo. I didn't see that coming at all, and that was insane. And then, unfortunately, he gets like killed, and you have a fight. And now you've got even more motivation to go and kill this Ravenbeak guy. The second what the fuck moment is when you see the X, and they actually bring back the X-Parasite, and that changes the entire game. Holy shit, does it, like, an incredible moment where you're like, oh, they are real. We've got to deal with these now. And the game changes. No longer are you fighting the same enemies. You're now fighting harder versions of the enemies that are now infected. But you now don't heal the same way. You collect X that give you ammo and things. It's such a good change. And it spurs you on even more. You're like, oh shit, like, things have just gotten crazy. And that's one of the big changes that I loved. And then on top of that, the final like cutscene and confrontation where you find out that Ravenbeak is like implanting some of his DNA into you. So Samus has DNA from different Chozos. Obviously now with the Metroid DNA, when you finally beat him, Samus's suit gets turns into I can't figure out if it's a Metroid or a Chozo thing, but you see her almost get corrupted by this, and she gets insane amount of power, and it's a phenomenal end to the game. And then right at the end, she does manage to absorb an X to turn herself back to normal. But like, I was so happy with the things that they touched on this. The X, what was going on with the Metroids, how Samus, like the fact that Samus talks, these things like that. Like, oh my god, it's insane. Like, I just can't get over how happy I am that they just nailed parts of the lore that I really wanted to see. And don't get me wrong, this game's not super story heavy, but I do like the fact that there is story and it moves things forward. Like, it's incredible. So overall, my thoughts are this. This is definitely the best Metroid game I have ever played. This is, right now, as the time of recording, this is definitely my game of the year. I'm currently doing a 100% run. I'm also live streaming the game, like a different run. I will probably do a hard mode run once I finished as well. Like, I am in awe of this. I want to just say a massive thank you to Mercury Steam. You get how to make a Metroid game. Samus Returns was fantastic. This is even better. I hope in the future that you will get the ability to do another Metroid game along with Nintendo, because holy shit, you just get it. You know how to make something. Hopefully at that point, like, you know, you'll have a better understanding of the hardware, or there'll be another Switch with more power in it, because my god, do I want to see this, what you've created here, but like higher fidelity. That would be awesome. But you got the game running pretty much 60 buttery the entire game, so I'm more than like happy. But yeah, overall this is just an impeccable game, and I really hope this game sells 3 to 5 million copies, because holy shit, do we need more Metroid games. Like, people need to understand how much of a incredible series this is, and they've done such a phenomenal job with this one. I am excited for Metroid Prime 4, but I'm also excited for the future of Metroid in general right now. So yeah, I'm riding a high after playing this game. It's so good. Anyway, that is going to do it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to talk Metroid, feel free to put it comments down there. Like, I'm open to talking about this game. I've got so much to say on it and have done. So if you like the video, hit like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.